Hello, I'm Mike Wood from Granville County. I'm here to talk to you about the ATS, or what's known as the algae turf scrubber. Well, what is an algae turf scrubber? It isn't a fish. It isn't a cleaning pad. It isn't an alien, although it may smell like one. You can't buy one at Home Depot or at Lowe's or Walmart. But you can get one from the city of Durham with about $10 million.
To do our part, each of us pays our stormwater utility fee based on the amount of hard surface area we have on our property. Stormwater Services uses this stormwater utility fee to fund many activities that you probably never even knew about.
Like a $10 million algae turf scrubber.
So what is an algae turf scrubber? It's a 4-acre concrete slab that has, on the average, of 10 million gallons of water pumped across it a day from Falls Lake. It's intended to grow algae. Once the algae grows to a certain point, it's scraped off. The concrete slab is not deep with water. It's only a few inches to facilitate the algae growing. The algae collects the impurities in the water, or the nitrogen, the phosphorus, etc. And then you take a tractor with a scrape blade. You go across the concrete slab, scrape the algae off, you put it in a pile and let it rot. And imagine that smell. Pretty horrific. If you've ever been around a fish pond that had algae on it and stirred that up, you can certainly relate to what 100 pounds of rotting algae would smell like. It's a neat concept. How did I come to know about an algae turf scrubber? Well, I've actually learned more than I ever wanted to know. In November of 2021, I received a call late at night from a neighbor that they heard a sewer plant was going to be, or a water treatment plant, they wasn't sure which one, was going to be put in right behind my house, which is joins Falls Lake. And I said, there's no way. We don't have the infrastructure to support that, but I would do some checking. So immediately got off the phone, left a message with one of the county commissioners, because supposedly this was coming before the county commissioners for approval. So basically what was happening is the city of Durham was coming into Granville County to purchase 30 plus acres from a private landowner to install a algae turf scrubber. An algae turf scrubber really only requires 10 acres. It's a 4-acre concrete slab, but you have to have room for the depositing of the algae, collecting of the algae, etc. So once the commissioner called me back and shared what little information they had, which they did not have a lot, he explained to me what this was called. I began my research and found out a lot about an algae turf scrubber. At that point in time, on the East Coast of the U.S., there was only 2 algae turf scrubbers that had been implemented. Both of those were in Florida. One of those is at Egret Marsh Stormwater Park and Osprey Stormwater Park. Florida did a really good job of these. So again, the intent is to remove the impurities from the water, but in order for it to work efficient, it has to have the proper climate. And the climate in North Carolina is much different than it is in Florida. Florida stays relatively warm most of the year, which facilitates the growth of algae. So it functions very well there. But Florida did something else. They realized the algae turf scrubber by itself was not a real solution. So they implemented other remediation measures, such as mangroves, such as aquatic plants, various other things that they did to help remediate, removing the nutrient contamination, if you will, from their area. And it worked very well for Florida. But as I said, the climate in North Carolina is much different. So, in finding out what this was, after talking with the CEO of the company that was going to build this, very nice guy, gave me some really good information, gave me some real details on what it could and could not do. We rallied the community because they were coming to do in December to the county commissioners to request permission to purchase the land. And after researching this, we found that it's not a good fit. It didn't create any jobs for Granville County. It really did not satisfy what we were looking or hoping that a purification system could do for Falls Lake. In fact, during my research, one of the scientists that I read a report from indicated it was like taking a thimble and treating a swimming pool. So that gives you an idea from a scientist's perspective, not my perspective, of how efficient this is for remediation of Falls Lakes, nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. So the community rallied together. We made flyers. It was right at the time of the Christmas parades. We socialized the flyers. None of the community had been informed officially by the city of Durham or by the representatives in Granville County. And I think the reason for Granville County not advising the citizens is they didn't really know what this was either. So at the county commissioners meeting, we had a very strong turnout. We voiced our concern, asked the county commissioners to say no to the land purchase or to, at a minimum, table the land purchase until they could educate themselves on what this algae turf scrubber really is. Another question for you to consider: if this algae turf scrubber is so efficient, why are there not more of them on the East Coast? Why are there only just 2 in Florida? There's none in Georgia, none in Alabama, none in Louisiana, South Carolina, Tennessee, etc. So is Florida the only state that has contaminated water? Is Falls Lake the only place that has contaminated water or that has a need for an algae turf scrubber? I think you'll find the answer to that is, of course, no. The reason is it's not efficient for the scope of what you're trying to do. From a financial perspective, from an efficiency and a quality perspective. Just a little bit more on the details, if I may. And here's an example, and this was based on information from 2021 during my research. And this came directly from the city of Durham's project plan. And within their project plan, they reviewed 35 potential sites. The highest scoring site was in Granville County. And the reason it was the highest scoring site was because they found a landowner that was willing to sell. Whereas in Durham County, they did not. And Durham County has over 10 miles of shoreline on Falls Lake. And there's adequate opportunities to put this in Durham County. So we were a little bit distressed as why you chose Granville County. And of course, the dollar is what spoke. So the total annual nitrogen removal range, and keep in mind, they give a range because our climate's not like Florida. In the wintertime, your nitrogen removal will not be the same as it is in the summertime. And for anyone that's ever been across Falls Lake, the location where they were looking to put this, whenever we have low periods of rain, the lake almost dries up in their area. So there's no way they're going to get 10 million gallons a day. That's just not going to happen. It's not realistic. In most cases, you can walk across that area of Falls Lake where it was going to be installed. So back to the removal rate. So in an average year, they would remove between 3,000 to 6,000 pounds of nitrogen with the algae turf scrubber. The phosphorus removal is between 508 to 656 pounds of phosphorus per year. That's not per month, that's for the whole year. So when you compare that to the contaminants or the nitrogen and phosphorus that is flowing in from the development sites or the potential from the development sites, and there's a mathematical formula for that.
Did you know that rainwater contains nitrogen? It's called atmospheric deposition. Most of this nitrogen would be absorbed into the ground, But if there are impervious surfaces, such as rooftops or pavement, then this nitrogen from stormwater flows to the creeks and streams. This excess nitrogen is considered a pollutant because it feeds algae. Some forms of algae, such as cyanobacteria, are toxic and can cause death, such as the case of this dog that drank water from Falls Lake.
But one Raleigh woman is taking it to social media. She's urging pet owners to not let their dogs drink from Falls Lake right now. CBS 17's Haley Fixler is live at NC State's veterinary hospital. Haley, that woman says her dog died from blue-green algae poisoning.
Yeah, and she said she took her dog to the vet, but unfortunately that dog did have to get put down. Now, an emergency vet hospital, just like this one right here, is where you need to go if your dog has ingested any contaminated water. But how do you know what to look for in the water, in your dog? We did ask for a doctor here at the vet hospital to get you the answers. So what is this toxic algae? Dr. David Dorman is a professor of toxicology at NC State's College of Veterinary Medicine. He says it's a bacteria that grows in warm weather and often looks like paint or scum on the surface of the water. Another key sign, a fish kill. Is it always visible?
No, not always. Unfortunately, we can have the blooms can be blown around like on a windy day like today. The bloom can actually move throughout the lake and the toxin can be left behind.
The bacteria produces two different toxins. One will impact your dog within an hour of them drinking it.
Muscle tremors and seizures.
The other can take a day or two.
The dog may stop eating. They may develop vomiting, diarrhea.
It's not something to take lightly.
Something that can kill cows can easily kill any size dog.
Developments have a calculation for figuring out how much nitrogen their development will contribute every year. It's called a stormwater impact analysis. Here is an example of how to calculate the stormwater impact analysis for a 430-acre development. Pre-development is 0.6 pounds of nitrogen per acre per year. Post-development is 5.88 pounds of nitrogen per acre per year. The difference is 5.28 pounds of nitrogen per acre per year. Multiply 5.28 times 430 acres, and you get 2,270 pounds of nitrogen per year, over 1 ton of nitrogen a year for one development. The Lick Creek Regional Pump Station accommodates over 10,000 acres of development. Can you imagine how much nitrogen these developments will contribute a year? This doesn't even include the nitrogen in the effluent from the treatment plant or from potential sewage spills.
Help me out here. The algae tuff scrubber can remove at a maximum 6,000 pounds in a perfect year, but we're putting 26 tons, so we're talking 3 tons to 26 tons. Y'all are smart enough to do the math to see the efficiency and the ludicrousy of trying to put in an algae turf scrubber. How many of those would it take just to satisfy what's coming in from the Lick Creek pump station that it's being serviced, that area of development? It's a no-brainer. Funding. So the funding for this, it is in the Durham City's project plan, and for 2023 they've allocated over $700,000 to continue the pursuit of a site. And securing that site so they can further this inefficient hiatus, if you will. It doesn't add up. Why they have not realized this by now and used the citizens of Durham and Durham County's tax dollars more efficiently.
So the total cost for an algae scrubber, you said, is like $10 million?
That was in 2021, $10 million, and we know with inflation that cost has likely risen, right? But that was the budgeted cost that Durham had set aside. That coincides with what the CEO of the that was going to install this told me back in 2021, that the average cost was around $10 million.
Do you think these fees come from stormwater fees?
I do not know where Durham was going to get $10 million from to do this. It could be from the stormwater fees. Their intentions, as I understand, was to leverage the rulemaking authority to give credits on their money that they have to pay. So everyone that, and I say everyone, every municipality or county that contributes to contaminants or nitrogen and phosphorus going into Falls Lake, and that covers a large area. It's really considered as the upper Neuse River Basin. So anyone that feeds anything into that, any runoff, any tributaries associated with that, have something called a stormwater fee. And they were looking to get credits so that their cost would not be as high, which could save them money. But they're really not doing anything to help the lake. And on another note, all of the water in Falls Lake is already allocated to Raleigh's drinking water. There is no additional water available to be used. And what I mean by that is if you're pumping 10 million gallons a day across a concrete slab, there's going to be evaporation, there's going to be runoff, there's a myriad of things that's going to go on to where you're not putting 10 million gallons of water back into the lake. So the thought process was the algae cleans the water and it goes right back into Falls Lake. While that's a novel concept, you're taking out 10 million, but you're not putting 10 million back. So that in and of itself is an issue because there's no additional allocation of water for anyone. That's a great question that we should ask the city of Raleigh is, are you aware that the city of Durham is pursuing this? I do know they were trying to leverage the Upper Neuse River Basin Authority to help move this forward. I don't think that has gained any traction. That is my understanding. And most people think the Upper Neuse River Basin Authority is a conservation group or a group of volunteers. That's what I thought, but it is not. It's totally opposite. It is representatives from the municipalities and the county governments that contribute into the nitrogen and phosphorus going into Falls Lake.
In other words, the Upper Neuse River Basin Association is basically mostly polluters. I think City of Raleigh is also part of it, but most of what makes up that organization is upstream polluters, actually.
Yes, so. That is right. Those are the ones that contribute to the dirty water in Falls Lake.
The yearly budget for UNRBA is $1,204,940. The City of Durham contributes $268,841.83 a year. Durham County contributes $103,171.74 a year.
A political operative, in my opinion, is not a group of what country folks call tree huggers and rock lickers. It's not that. It's totally the opposite, right? Which really took me by surprise. It will not return to Granville County. The citizens of Granville County will not let it return. Our county commissioners have been educated as to why it shouldn't return to Granville County. Don't get us wrong. We all want clean water. We want Falls Lake to be clean. And if this was a viable solution, then that's a different conversation. But based upon the data and the science, it isn't a viable solution. And therefore, it's not coming to Granville County. And I have to give our county commissioners credit for being open-minded enough to realize that and to take a stand. But I do know that Durham is still pursuing putting in the algae turf scrubber. There were, as I have been informed from a reliable source, that they were intending on having conversations with the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission and the Army Corps of Engineers and putting this on the government land, if you will, that surrounds Falls Lake.
Why do you think so top secret? And when we talk to people's groups, organizations, even our politicians, and I ask them if they even know what an algae turf scrubber is, and their answer is almost 100% of the time is, I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's, in my opinion, the reason it's top secret is because they know that it is not a worthy endeavor, but yet they still want to pursue it, and the reason for that is for the dollar recoup on the Falls Lake rules and money associated with that. It's all about the money. You know, we can do something for $10 million, and then over the next 20 years, if we can recoup $100 million, that's a great investment, dollars-wise, right, business-wise. Even if it doesn't do anything for the quality of the water, we've made money, we've saved money. So it's all about the money, all about the, what is it, the Benjamins? Falls Lake is a mess. Anyone looking to see just how big of a mess it is, I suggest you just walk up Ellerby Creek. And Ellerby Creek goes all the way from Falls Lake through the golf course, the Hillendale Golf Course in Durham. The trash and the contaminants, the sewage overspills when they have a blockage in Durham in that area, go right into Ellerby Creek, right into Falls Lake. So it's not a pristine piece of water. So the farmer isn't the bad guy in this story anymore. They're actually have done a lot from a farming perspective to protect the water, but they're billed as being the bad guys, and they're getting a bad rap for that. I mean, talk to your county ag person, talk to your county soil and water conservation guy to get the real story or the real impact on the farmland. It's not the farmers, it's the development that's causing this. And as it continues, it will continue to get worse.